In today's video, we are checking out the new release from Dusita. It is called La Rhapsodie Noire. Pissarra very kindly sent me a little, I think it's a 15ml, 10 or 15ml mini kind of bottle. Every time they kind of launch a new one, this just magically appears on my doorstep. Thank you. But yeah, I've been checking it out and we're going to dive into a full review, and I think this one will be quite popular. It's not challenging to wear, it's very easy to wear. I think a lot of people will like it. It treads the line very nicely of being unisex, so a man or a woman can wear it. What I first notice in the opening of this is a coffee note. You get this kind of rich, kind of dry roasted coffee bean. There's just a hint of a boozy note. Rum is listed on the note, I think, and it slightly, I wouldn't say full on boozy, but just a hint of slight, almost like a coffee liqueur maybe. So you get this kind of roasted coffee note, a ever so slight nuance of kind of a slight booziness behind it, and this slightly syrupy sweetness, which I get from the beginning and also all the way into the dry down. So this kind of warm, slightly sugary, vanillic-like sweetness, which is, again, warm, kind of cozy. Tobacco is listed on the notes along with the coffee, so you get this kind of brown kind of feeling to the perfume in terms of colour. And you definitely get a little bit of the tobacco as it dries down. Coffee, like I say, definitely the more noticeable note in the opening. You get a little bit of that tobacco. There's some florals, but it doesn't go particularly floral on my skin. Broom, jasmine, and mimosa are listed as florals. They are more like nuances to me. I didn't really get a massively big floral in this. It's more centered around the sweet notes. There are more kind of aromatic materials in here like lavender and sage. Again, those don't play seemingly a huge part. They're more nuanced. I wouldn't probably guess they were in there unless they're written on the note list. They don't immediately kind of pop out to me. I think they're blended nicely kind of into the composition without, like I say, being obvious to the wearer possibly, if it wasn't kind of listed on the note list, so to speak. In the dry down, tonka is listed as a note, vanilla, patchouli, oak wood, sandalwood, vetiver, and oak moss, so kind of a big old kind of woody, mossy kind of sweet composition. In terms of note listing, what I get on my skin is a little bit more of the same, that kind of quote-unquote brown kind of feeling from the tobacco and coffee kind of just melds into the woods in the dry down. Still with the same kind of colour or vibe or feeling to the fragrance. The sweetness doesn't change hugely. That tonka kind of vanilla, slightly syrupy overtone to it as well kind of does go through the whole of the fragrance into the dry down. The oak moss, maybe subtle kind of dabs of a little bit of that kind of velvety texture that you sometimes get from more modern kind of mossy kind of base notes. But in general, a little bit more woody in the dry down. The patchouli isn't huge on my skin. It definitely isn't that kind of hippie patchouli. There's no kind of dank earth green kind of sweaty patchouli. It's nuanced like a lot of the other notes in this. It's nicely balanced. Nothing kind of fights that way. I don't massively perceive it directly, so to speak, but you get this kind of very comforting, cozy kind of fragrance that's very warming. Emotionally speaking, it's kind of cozy, comforting, a winter kind of warm. I imagine like maybe an evening on a cold, like snowy night with the snow outside, and you've gone out to like an evening cafe or something, and you've ordered like an Irish coffee, like a coffee that's got a little bit of booze in there, and you get that kind of aroma of the coffee shop, and it's just kind of warm, sweet, inviting. Maybe someone's cooked some kind of sweet kind of good, you know, bakery stuff in the background of the cafe, and you're getting a little bit of a nuance of that in the air, and it's something that you would have on a cold night when there's like snow on the ground. That's like the mental kind of romantic image in my head when I smell it of what I can imagine through imagination in terms of the way it smells and the emotions that you kind of feel when you wear this one. I would say perfectly unisex, like I said in the beginning, And if you like coffee, if you like kind of warm, sweet, kind of cuddly, more kind of huggable fragrances that are just very kind of comforting and warm, then I think you might really enjoy this one. In terms of performance for this, a little bit shorter on the performance to some Dusita that I've tried. I got around 6 hours on my skin, 5 to 6 hours longevity. The performance on the sillage and projection I did find, to be honest, a little bit difficult to kind of judge. I wasn't quite sure how big the bubble was, and I had no one around me to kind of gauge that for me. I think one of the days that I wore this, I was around family and I didn't get any kind of comments on, oh, what are you wearing, which sometimes I do. Doesn't mean they didn't smell it, but I didn't get any kind of feedback. So I felt like the projection in terms of sillage, the way it wafts around as you walk about, is maybe a little bit more closer to the skin. And after about 6 hours, you'd probably want to reapply. Someone that likes things like maybe Baccarat Rouge 540 may like this if they want something less sweet. Baccarat is a completely different fragrance, but I'm talking about in general of like things I can imagine someone might like if they like this. Something like that if you want like a less sweet version that's more woody, a little bit more aromatic with the coffee, but you still get that kind of hint of mass appeal with a little bit of that kind of sweetness, then something like this you might fancy getting a sample of and trying. That's my full review. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you tried it, let me know your thoughts on it and how you like it, and I will see you soon with another video. Take care everyone, good night, bye.
One time he disappeared for 2 or 3 days. When he came back, they asked him where he'd been, and he said, oh, just sailing.